Warning: contains somewhat mature content, including language, brief violence, and mild sexual themes, and may not be suitable for people under age 14.
I left the nurse's office to go get in line for lunch and then sat down. I stared at the tray with the food on it, which was a hot dog, and found I still wasn't hungry. I took the tray and walked with it out the front door of the school and around to the back of the dumpster where the family of cats were. I dumped the contents of my tray in front of the mother cat, all except the juice, which I poured in the bushes. I watched the mother eat while the kittens played with each other cutely. One of them came over to me, mewing. I reached to pet it gently and then looked at the mother. She watched me while eating, but she didn't make any move to stop me, so I picked up the kitten. It had a little freckle on its pink nose. "Hello, little kitty," I said to it. It watched me and then batted at my nose without extending its claws. I actually laughed, then checked the kitten's gender. She was a girl. "You're cute." I cuddled her gently, and she purred in my arms, falling asleep. "I'll name you Cherry," I told her, and then I froze. The tightness in my throat got worse, and tears came to my eyes. I started crying again. I didn't want to upset the kitten, so I set her next to her mother. I brought my knees up to my chest again and just sat there, crying and watching the cats. The bell rang, but I didn't want to see Rain in English, so I went back to the nurse. The nurse almost didn't let me stay there, but I told her I was still recovering from the stomach flu, so she let me stay. I stayed there until the very end of the school day, when I got up and left to catch the bus. I wasn't looking forward to the weekend, when all I'd be able to think about would be Rain and Sean hanging out together. I got on the bus and sat next to Lionel because it was the only empty seat. I tried to stay as far away from him as possible, but it was hard because he was so fat. He kept picking his nose, and I almost thought he ate one once. I was utterly disgusted. I was glad to finally get off the bus and hurry into my house. I always felt like taking a shower after being near that guy. I grabbed a bunch of clothes and went in to take a shower. When I got out of the shower, Mom asked me what I wanted for dinner. I still didn't feel like eating, so I told her I was still feeling sick and that I was going to go to bed. "Cole, I'm worried maybe we need to take you to the doctor," she said. I shook my head. "No, Mom, it's just the flu. I'll get over it," I replied, going to my room. My stomach growled loudly, but I ignored it and laid in bed, not even feeling sleepy. I stared at my ceiling, feeling miserable. I had the feeling that I needed to cry again, but I guess I had run out of tears. I looked over at my journal, debating as to whether or not I should tell it about my loss. Then I remembered about what would happen if my parents read it, and just continued to lay there until I fell asleep. I ended up sleeping until noon on Saturday. My mom actually came in and woke me up, wondering if I was okay. "You've never slept this late before," she told me after I woke and opened my eyes to look at her. "Sorry, this flu makes me feel very tired," I told her, but it was a complete lie. "I'll get up now." "What do you plan on doing today, Cole?" Mom asked. I sat up, wincing slightly. My abdomen was hurting very badly. I thought a minute and had an idea. "Mom, what would you say about me bringing home a family of stray cats?" I asked. She blinked at me. "Why would you ask me that?" she asked slowly. "I found a family of cats behind a dumpster at school," I replied. "Can I bring them home?" Mom nodded. "You can keep them until you can find proper homes for them. If they stay out of there, some gangster might beat the poor things to death." I smiled, nodding. At least she cared about animals. I got dressed after she left my room and went into the kitchen. I opened the fridge to find some food, but changed my mind and just left, walking to school. The school was about 6 miles away, and it took about 2.5 hours to get there, but the walk didn't bother me because I had a lot to think about. It surprised me when I finally got there, and I was exhausted. I walked around to the back of the dumpster and smiled at the little family. I blinked, looking in front of the mother. Somebody had come over and set a bowl of cat food and some water. I knelt down, and the mother cat meowed at me. "Did somebody feed you?" I asked her. I stroked her head gently, and I could hear her loud purring. The kittens were sleeping very close to the mother. I watched them for a while and then stood up again. "I'm taking you guys home as soon as I find something to carry you in." I walked around to the open end of the dumpster and looked inside. I was surprised to find that there was nothing relatively disgusting inside. No leaky bags, no food, just boxes, bottles, a lamp, a few of the cafeteria trays, and some towels. I grabbed a large cardboard box and a few towels and brought them back to the cats. I arranged the towels in the box, then picked up the mother cat and set her in. She didn't reject being put in a box. Then, one by one, I set each kitten in the box. The last one I picked up was Cherry. I could tell because she was the only one with a freckle on her nose. She mewed at me, seeming to recognize me from before. After I got all the cats in the box, I picked it up and began walking home. None of them even tried to escape, which made the long walk much easier. I got home 3 hours later, the walk home slowed down by the weight of the cats. I took them to my room and set the box down. The mother jumped out, and I took out the kittens one by one and set them on the floor. I took a blanket off my bed and folded it, making it into a cat bed. I guided the mother cat to the blanket and her kittens followed her. "You need a name, Mama Cat," I said to her. "How about Sandwich? 'Cause that was the first thing we fed you." She meowed at me, hearing the word sandwich as if she wanted food. I smiled and went to the kitchen, grabbing a can of tuna and opening it, bringing it to Sandwich. "Here you go," I said, and she began eating quickly. Her kittens wobbled over and began feeding from her, feeling hungry as well. I went over and sat in my bed, watching them. I felt somewhat happy when I saw them together, a cute little family. Then my emotions had a drastic turn, and I curled up into a ball and sobbed, tears coming fast. There was nothing I could do to stop this flow of sadness, except wait for it to stop. It didn't stop for about an hour. I heard Mom walk through the front door, and I quickly slipped under the blankets to pretend to be asleep. She came into my room without knocking, as always, and I heard her set something down, and then she left. I looked over and saw a litter box, a bag of kitty litter, and a bag of cat food. There were also 2 bowls next to the bag of food. I decided to get up and pour food for Sandwich in case she got hungry again, then went back into my bed to lay down. I looked at my clock. It was 6 o'clock, and I was already tired. I lay back down just as Mom opened my door again. I closed my eyes quickly, and luckily she didn't notice I was awake. "I'm worried, John," she said, obviously talking to my father. "He's been sleeping a lot and hasn't eaten a thing as far as I know."
"Well, he can't possibly go that long without food," said Dad. "Do you know if he ate this morning?"
"I have no idea," Mom replied. Suddenly Dad was shaking me, so I opened my eyes and looked at him. When I spoke, I made my voice hoarse as if I was sleeping. "Yeah, Dad?" I said. Dad furrowed his brow.
"Hey, Cole, have you eaten today?"
he asked. I nodded. "I ate before I left to go get those cats," I lied, wiping my eyes. "I had some toast with jelly. Why?" Mom sighed, sounding relieved. "I was worried you were refusing to eat," she explained. "Why don't you get up and come to have dinner with us?" I shook my head. "I threw up my toast a few hours later. It's best if I don't eat until I get better," I told her, relaxing as if to tell them I wanted to go back to sleep. Dad patted my shoulder and they both left the room. Sandwich meowed at me, her kitten sleeping soundly on the blanket. She got up and jumped onto my bed with me, curling up on my chest. I pet her gently, smiling. I could tell she really liked me now, but that was only because I was providing a home for her. I guess that's what makes a pet love you anyway, is hospitality. Thinking about that, I wondered what makes a person love you. Not family love, because members of the family are obligated to love you. I wondered what made an unrelated person love you, someone meant to be your significant other. I actually fell asleep wondering why Rain felt so strongly for me. I woke up suddenly to Mom shaking me. "Wake up, we've got to go to Mass," she said. "It's Sunday." I groaned, trying to roll away from her, but Sandwich was still on my chest. "Mom, I feel sick," I half lied. In truth, I didn't feel queasy. I felt like there were knives growing inside my stomach. "There is no excuse for missing Mass, Cole. Now get up and get ready," she said. She always spoke to me coldly when it was time to go somewhere that had to do with our religion. I sighed and gently moved Sandwich, getting out of bed. Mom left the room, and I refilled the cat food bowl, then went over to my dresser and got out one of my nicer shirts. I was trying to think of a way I could get out of this, because I wanted very badly to just stay home. However, I didn't need to think, my body just did it for me. While putting on my shirt, my vision suddenly blacked out and I fell onto the floor, feeling very dizzy. I didn't faint, but my vision didn't clear up for a few minutes. Mom came in and stared at me. "Cole, what happened? Get up," she demanded. I tried getting up, but suddenly threw up all over my carpet. I stared at it. It was nothing but yellow stomach mucus. That's when Mom caved in. All right. You need to stay home," she said, helping me up and into bed again. If you throw up on the floor in the church, we'll probably find our house burnt down in a matter of minutes." I turned away from her, glaring at my wall. At this time, I hated my religion, and I didn't even know why. Mom cleaned up my little mess before leaving. She also left a glass of ginger ale on my nightstand, but I didn't touch it. The kittens woke up and began crying for their mother, and Sandwich hopped off the bed to tend to them. I watched them for a while before I felt sick again and ran to the bathroom, throwing up a whole new load of stomach acid. After I was finished, I went back to my bed and lay down. I felt like the energy had been drained from my body. I was so exhausted I nearly passed out again. I guess I had fallen asleep again, for I then found myself in that stupid closet that I had dreamt about a while ago. I tried the doorknob to see if I could get out, but I couldn't. Then I heard Rain's voice from the other side of the door.
Can't you get out, Cole?
He asked. I wiggled the doorknob again and then tried pushing against the door. It wouldn't budge. Just then, Rain began singing part of a song that I was only slightly familiar with. I recognized it from the radio, but I didn't remember the song name or the band that sang it.
Help me carry on, assure me it's okay to use my heart and not my eyes to navigate the darkness. Will the ending be ever coming suddenly? Will I ever get to see the ending to my story?
I then started panicking and pushing at the door forcefully, desperate to escape. "Let me out! Rain! Open the door!" I shouted. Rain spoke back to me softly, his voice almost echoing.
You never know how much you truly love something until you've lost it,
he said, and then there was silence. I waited for him to say something else, but nothing came. "Rain?" I called, unsure. He didn't answer. I pushed at the door more. "Rain! Come back!" I twisted the doorknob so hard it almost hurt, even in the dream. Suddenly, the door opened very slightly. I stared at it, then went to push it open, excited at finally getting out. I woke up with my arms outstretched in front of me. I sat up and cursed. I had gotten out of the closet and didn't even get to see what was outside. I looked over to the kittens and decided I'd hold Cherry to help make me feel better. I went over to the kittens and looked for the one with the freckle on her nose, but she wasn't there. I looked around frantically until I noticed my door ajar. She must have left my room. I hurried out into the living room to find her, but started to get very dizzy. I looked for about 10 minutes before I collapsed onto the floor. I was almost out of hope until I saw the little kitten trotting over to me, mewing. I smiled and grabbed her, holding her close. "I thought I lost you, Cherry," I told her. "Don't ever scare me like that again." Just then, Mom and Dad came home. "Cole, what are you doing?" Mom asked. I sat up slowly. "Cherry left my room, so I went looking for her, but I got really dizzy and fell down," I replied. Mom sighed and helped me up and back to my room again. "If you're like this tomorrow, I'm calling a doctor," she said. I cringed. I hated the doctor and was more than terrified of them. I lay in bed once more, cuddling Cherry. When Mom left the room, I looked at the clock. It was 2:30 in the afternoon. I sighed and looked at Cherry, who was watching me and purring. I couldn't help but smile at how adorable she was. Just then there was a soft knock at my door, which was odd because my parents never knock, they just come right in. I waited a few seconds, not saying anything, and there was a second knock. Finally I told them to come in. When the door opened, Natalie, Sean's sister, came in. I looked over at her and blinked, thinking I was asleep again. Why was Natalie coming to visit me? "Hey, Cole," she said, closing the door and coming over to sit on my bed. "You've missed quite a lot of work, so I decided to bring it to you. I would have come yesterday, but I had gone to Samantha and Adrian's party to keep an eye out for Sean, making sure he didn't drink or anything like that." My stomach turned uncomfortably. "So, Rain and Sean went to the party after all?" I asked quietly. Natalie blinked. "No, I didn't see Rain there at all," she replied. "They haven't hung out at all during the weekend. Sean went to see the zombie movie with Nate and them today, and then they're gonna go to the mall, but Rain isn't with them at all." I was perplexed, having sworn I heard they were going to hang out during the weekend. Natalie took some papers out of a bag she was carrying and handed them to me. They were all math worksheets. "Exactly what I needed," I said sarcastically. Natalie frowned. "Cole, what's been going on?" she asked. She sounded more worried than I thought was necessary. "I have the stomach flu," I lied. Natalie seemed to know I was lying because she gave me an incredulous look.